YouTube. So it'll be just a minute.
Thank you.
And we are live on YouTube. So, Mr. Chair, take it away.
All right, thank you. Then I'm going to call this meeting of the Bend Landmarks Commission for May 18th open and in session. Before I'll call to order and roll call. It looks to me like all of the commissioners are here tonight. Myself, Derek, Jim, Robin, and David. Our alternates are not with us tonight. Heidi, did you hear anything from our alternates?
Yeah, I heard from Terry, and she was not able to make it. She was going to make the work session, and I know you and I briefly had talked about maybe postponing that. So I let her know that it might not happen this evening.
Okay. All righty.
So we probably won't see her. I haven't heard from Andy.
Okay. Let's see. Let's go to the agenda. Because of the nature of the two public hearings, we thought it would be better to go ahead and postpone the work session at the end of the two public hearings until a later night. One of the things that we will go ahead and do with that is Commissioner Vora put together some phrasing and wording, suggestions to change the city code. And we will go ahead and bundle that with part two of and the work session that we're going to have tonight, and we'll put that in another work session, a different work session. Heidi is going to go ahead and peruse calendars and try to find a time or a time and date that will bring most of us in. We'll be able to do it. In June, we only have one public hearing. We can go ahead and tack it on then. Go ahead, Heidi.
Yeah. I think a Tuesday evening, if we have more than one public hearing, would work because Planning Commission and City Councils are on Mondays and Wednesdays. And so the 15th of June is the regular standing meeting. And if everybody's amenable to, if there's one public hearing, doing a work session after that, that'd be good. Or maybe I would recommend June 22nd. If that works for people, then if we have a big packed regular meeting, if everybody's willing to meet on that Tuesday after, then I could do notice for a public meeting for that, just for the work session.
Okay.
Heidi, I can make the 15th scheduled meeting, but I cannot make the 22nd.
Okay. Great.
All right. So
we also have the 29th too, but it is before 4th of July or, weekend. I don't know if that.
Yeah, and the 29th. Oh, I can do the 29th if we have to.
Yeah, I can't do the 29th either. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. So, if we get a second one on the 15th, then maybe we'll take a look at the nature of the public hearings and see if we can squeeze something in ahead of time or squeeze something in after that.
So we'll try to stick to the regular meeting time. So. Okay.
All right. Some things you just have to play by ear. Okay. Roll call. Juan, is there anyone there who wishes to speak? General comments or questions from the public on anything that's not on the agenda?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just put up the instructions. If there's anybody from the public who would like to provide public comment, and as the chair indicated, that it's not related to anything in the agenda, this is the time for you to do it. So please use the raise hand function in Zoom. And I'm gonna give you a few seconds just to see if we get any hands. And I'm not seeing any hands, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. If someone does jump in a little bit later, let me know, please. Okay.
Will do.
Okay. That takes us to number 3, approval of minutes for April. Heidi sent out some draft minutes for April, and Commissioner Vora sent in a correction to those minutes. Did everybody get those corrections? No, yes, no?
No, they just came in actually. Maybe if Robin could just briefly talk about them and you could agree as a commission, then I can make those changes in the final minutes.
Okay, you bet. Robin, would you go ahead and do that and speak to those changes? Unmute yourself, Robin. You're muted. You're muted. There you go.
How about there? Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Okay. On the bottom, near the bottom of page 3, I'll just read, this portion is in there so far. Commissioner Vora asked for a discussion on the windows and asked whether the commission should give the applicant the option of the 2 window styles the applicant presented for his proposed addition. So the part about the 2 and the applicant proposes is in addition, as is the rest of these next 2 sentences. Commissioner Vora stated he preferred the applicant's alternate option with more panes, especially for the windows and the connecting corridor. He offered an amendment allowing the applicant to choose between his 2 presented window design options for the addition. His proposed amendment did not receive a second. And then delete the sentence about Commissioner Stevens not approving the proposed amendment to allow the choose the window design, because a commissioner can't, you can only not approve an amendment, by a board vote.
Mhm, mhm. Okay, everybody go ahead and get that. Otherwise, I'm assuming everybody looked through the minutes for April, and I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as I just amended.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor it has been moved and seconded to accept the minutes from April as amended. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that takes care of the minutes from last meeting. That moves us on to our first public hearing. Okay, and let's see, Elizabeth, you're with us since you were the staff on this one, right? Yeah. Okay. Mr. Stevens, Colin Stevens, I'm assuming that you're the representative and the applicant for this?
I'm not, I'm staff, city staff.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yes, of course you are. Oh, there you are. Juan, do we have a representative for the?
Heidi, do you see somebody in the attendees list that you'd like me to promote?
Do you see somebody? I think Eric Kozlow
Okay,
and Janet Zars,
Mhm.
for
Those
sure.
are the,
Those are the 2 ones that I know of, and maybe if you
the
let
applicant-
those in, then they can let us know if there's anybody else that's part of that.
excellent. And they have
Thank you.
both been promoted.
Francis
now?
Zars.
oh, there they
Francis Zars. Perfect.
Okay, there we are. All right. And our applicants are here. Okay, very good. Then, go ahead and get started on this. Let's see, this is a de novo hearing and is an initial evidentiary hearing of PLHIS 202-10403. This application is a request for, let's see, a type 3 historic major alteration for an existing single-family dwelling located at 378 Northwest Georgia Avenue. Alterations include demolition and reconstruction of front entry and east wing to accommodate new addition, construction of new rear deck and landing stairs on west side elevation, new foundation and resulting elevation of first floor 2 foot 5.5 inch above grade, removal of asbestos siding and retained wood siding, removal and replacement of brick chimney of roof, replacement of fence and replacement of all windows and doors. The detached accessory structure is not a part of this application. All right, so that's what we're going to talk about. One of the things I have to do first is give the pre-hearing statement. The applicant has the burden of proving that he or she is entitled to the approval sought. Excuse me. The applicable criteria for this application include the Bend Urban Area Comprehensive Plan, Chapter 3 and Chapter 10.2 Historic Preservation Code, and the Secretary of the Interior's standards for the treatment of historic properties. Okay, the hearing, let's see, where. Okay. Oh, I missed it. This is a, okay. I don't have the rest of the statement in front of me. What
Okay,
I do? Do you have it, Heidi?
I can find it real quick. Hold on.
Okay, I lost it somewhere.
All right, sorry.
Oh, shoot.
I'll email it to you. Is that, does that work?
Yeah. Real quick.
Okay,
Sorry, guys.
Or Heidi, could you just read it?
sure.
Yeah, that'll be quicker.
I'm sorry, where did you leave off? I'm sorry.
Just,
Let's see, I got to.
I apologize. I was trying to
No,
help
I think I
my
got it.
applicant get in. Oh, I'm sorry?
Heidi, this is
No.
Colin. Do you have the entire statement in front of you?
I don't
I
have
do.
the entire statement. Do you have the entire statement in front of you?
Just read it from the beginning.
Okay. Preliminary statement in public hearings before the Landmarks Commission. Introduction. This is a de novo hearing, an initial evidentiary hearing of the application referenced earlier. The applicant has the burden of proof from the applicant criteria. The applicant has the burden of proving that he or she is entitled to the approval sought. B, the applicable criteria for this application include the Bend Area Comprehensive Plan, Chapter 3, and the Chapter 10.20 Historic Preservation Code, and the Secretary of the Interior standards as they're outlined in the Preservation Code. The hearing's procedure. Are you okay?
I got it. I just got it. I just pulled it up.
Okay.
Okay, hearings procedure, testimony and evidence at this hearing must be directed toward the criteria set forth in this staff report or other criteria in the Bend General Plan or Bend Development Code that you believe is applicable, or any other criteria in the National Register of Historic Places program that any person believes apply to the decision. Failure on the part of any person to raise an issue with sufficient specificity to afford the Landmarks Commission and parties to this proceeding an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the City Council or Land Use Board of Appeals on that issue. Additionally, failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to the proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the Landmarks Commission to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Our order of presentation, the hearing will be conducted in the following order. The staff will give a report. The applicant will then have an opportunity to offer testimony and evidence. Proponents of the application will then be given a chance to testify and present evidence. When all proponents have testified, opponents to the appeal will then be given a chance to testify and present evidence. After both proponents and opponents have testified, the applicants will be allowed to present rebuttal testimony, but may not present new evidence. At the Landmarks Commission's discretion, if the proponents presented new evidence on rebuttal, opponents may be recognized for rebuttal presentation. At the conclusion of this hearing, the staff will be afforded an opportunity to make any closing comments. The commission may limit the time period for presentation. Continuances before the close of the hearing, any person has the right to request an opportunity to present additional evidence, argument, or testimony regarding the application. If the hearing is continued or the record left open, the applicant shall also be allowed at least 7 days after the record is closed to all other parties to submit final written arguments, but no new evidence in support of the application. Do any of the commissioners have any ex parte contacts, prior hearing observations, biases, or conflicts of interest to declare? If so, please state the nature and extent of those. Commissioners, nothing? Does any party wish to challenge any commissioner based on ex parte contacts, biases, or conflicts of interest? No? All right. Hearing no challenges, we shall proceed. Okay. Applicants, since the burden of proof is yours, then I like to go ahead and give applicants the time that they need to make their presentation. Okay. The floor is, oh, I'm sorry. Elizabeth, your staff report?
Okay, good evening. Okay, so this is PLHIS 2021-0403. The address is 378 Northwest Georgia Avenue. The single-family dwelling is considered historic, not contributing within the Old Town National Register Historic District. The historic name is the Watkins, Stanley, and Lewis House. It was built in 1920. It's a craftsman bungalow, and it's in the residential medium density or RM zone. This application was submitted and fees were paid on April 16th, 2021, and the application was deemed complete on April 25th of 2021. So I'm just going to hit the high points in this staff report and leave it to the applicant to provide additional information. But generally, the dwelling unit is described as a modest example of a craftsman bungalow, ranking as non-contributing due to the lack of significant features or cultural history that would have elevated it to a contributing designation back when the district was formed. The home has undergone a series of alterations over the years and decades prior to the designation of the home in June of 2001. This proposal will remain
Elizabeth is freezing up.
with
Beth, maybe you take off your video.
you. Let's see.
Beth, if you try turning off your video and see if we have a better quality. Oh, I think you
Here I
are
am.
back. Yes, there you are.
I'm going to stop my video.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, will that be better? Better connection?
Yes, that should help.
Okay,
Thank you.
and everybody can hear me still?
Yes.
We can so
Okay.
far.
All right, okay, great. Well, these alterations will allow for the contemporary use of the home without further detracting from the structure's original integrity or from the district. Just going to go through the high points of the design review criteria relative to siting. The information provided in the application material shows that the proposed addition to the east wing and the northern or the rear portion of the house occurs primarily in the backyard, largely hidden from view due to the topography and the existing detached accessory structure, which is located approximately 7 feet east of the dwelling unit. The minor visual impacts from the Northwest Georgia Street frontage are kept to a minimum with no significant or detracting effect from the primary facade. Relative to landscaping, the applicant is proposing to replace the existing fence with a very simple design, very similar to what's there, of 6-foot-high cedar slats. The rock formations along the side yards are not proposed to be changed or altered. And the landscaping is a bit straggly right now, but the landscaping will be improved with seed or sod grass lawn in the front, west side, and rear yard areas. Relative to the building height, the maximum height of structures in the residential medium zone is 30 feet. And with the raised foundation, the dwelling unit at its highest point, as shown in the staff recommendation report, will be 23 feet 6 inches in height, which is less than the 30 feet allowed by the zone. The height of the reconstructed east wing and porch will be lower than the main gable ridge. Relative to building massing, the existing east wing, which is to the rear and offset from the main dwelling, is proposed to be demolished and rebuilt. And due to the size, height, and location of the proposed new square footage, neither the rear addition, additional square footage, nor the east wing will be visually larger than the original dwelling. The proposed front porch has been designed to restore some original craftsman style characteristics to the dwelling, and the size of the proposed front porch is more in keeping with a typical craftsman dwelling unit. Relative to proportion and scale, historic proportion and scale is respected with the proposed alterations in terms of where the additions are located, the window and door size and placement, the architectural symmetry at the front facade, and all other visually relevant aspects of the alteration, including the rehab of the relationship of the east wing with the primary mass. The applicant is proposing window and door openings that are typical of craftsman style homes in the area. Relative to the exterior features in general, an approach of repair and restoration has been taken for building elements that can be saved, such as siding, elements of eave details, and the primary structure itself, with an effort of replacement only as required. Replacement elements will be as close to historic as possible, as detailed on the site plan sheet A1.1 and elevations-improvement plan sheet A2.1, the keys on those sheets, and within the burden of proof. The applicant is planning to salvage and reuse as much of the original siding as possible, with any replacement to match the original. Other than the siding, it appears that not much, if any, original materials remain on the dwelling. The applicant is proposing to replace all windows with a combination of fixed and double hung aluminum clad windows. New exterior lights will be 12-inch gooseneck style lights per the submitted cut sheet. Relative to the new foundation, the proposed new foundation, the new foundation will be concrete, and the finished floor elevation of the building will be approximate to nearby historic properties and will not significantly alter the existing finished floor elevation, and will result in a front entry which is more consistent with craftsman character. Craftsman porches are typically elevated by 2, 3, or 4 steps, and the height of the finished floor to the ridge line is not proposed to be altered with this proposal. Relative to the roof, the proposal retains the character-defining side-facing gable on the main portion of the structure and the front-facing porch gable. In reconstructing the east wing, the applicant proposes to elevate the east wing front-facing gable slightly and reconstruct the side-facing smaller gable which connects the two main masses of the home. The east wing roof and associated side-facing gable will both be lower in height than the main ridge line. The proposed new roof material would be composition shingles per the submitted cut sheet. Relative to garages and carports, this proposal does not include the existing detached accessory structure. And with the recommendation, based on the application materials uploaded into the CityView file between April 16th and April 25th, 2021, staff recommends that the Landmark Commission approve the proposal with the following conditions. 1, the applicant shall submit a standards details checklist to the Planning Division for review and approval with submittal of any building permits for the proposed building changes required by the Building Division and prior to any exterior remodeling. 2, as required by the Building Division, the applicant shall obtain all required building permits prior to any construction work. And 3, prior to issuance of a building permit for the alterations, the applicant must receive approval for a variance to the front yard setback standards from the Planning Division for the proposed front porch that encroaches into the front yard setback area.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. Any questions for Elizabeth for our staff?
Yeah, I have one.
Go ahead, Robin.
Elizabeth, I think it was regarding this application, a back and forth email exchange with Nunzi Gould. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I don't know if is Nunzi here online? No, she's not. If Nunzi's not here to speak, could you summarize what that was about and where you got to with Nunzi on that?
Yeah, let me see if I can pull up the comments real quick here. My last email to her was asking, are these just questions for clarification, for information, or did she intend these to be as the record? I didn't hear back from her, but what she had asked, let's see, public comments. Really just clarification. Let's see, the first one was, she was interested to know from the existing grade, what is the current first floor elevation of the existing home? What experience does Ben Landmarks have on condition of original siding underneath asbestos siding when the asbestos is removed? And what is the profile of the existing original siding? And is the accessory structure designated historic in the nomination? The accessory structure is actually also I believe it's non-contributing. I gave her the profile of the existing original siding. Landmarks Commission experience on condition of original siding. I mean, that's something that we don't really know the extent or the condition of the original siding until that asbestos is pulled off. And it's possible that the siding is great. It's also possible that it could be riddled with nail holes from the application of the asbestos siding. We just don't know at this point. And from the finished grade, from existing grade, what is the current first floor elevation? I was able to provide her with the elevation plan showing that currently the first floor elevation, that the floor is very, very close to the grade, and that with the foundation construction, the distance from the first finished floor to the ceiling of the first floor is not going to change. That's not going to change. That's going to remain the same. As the ridge line and the first finished floor will increase in height by like whatever, 2.5 feet
2.5 feet.
together.
Yep.
And I provided her with a photo that was in the application material, showing, it was a photograph of where the asbestos siding had been removed near the electrical box on the exterior of the home. I had suggested that perhaps that the condition could have been, it looked like there was some black soot. There could be some fire damage, not sure, just that's part of the process of discovery, peeling back the onion on an old house. And she had suggested that this black smear was actually from the soot of the mills in the past. Let me see. And then the other comment letter again was really just information like what types of fasteners are used to apply the asbestos siding. Is the accessory building attached to the existing building currently? No, it's not. It's about 7 feet. There's about 7 feet of distance between the detached accessory structure and the east and the south elevations of the home. And is the proposal to increase the height of the first floor or to keep the existing height between the top of the existing floor to the roof and just raise the structure to add height to the partial basement? And yes, it was, the intent is to, the proposal is to increase the height of the partial basement. But again, the first floor, when you're looking at the home from the street, that first finished floor relative to the ridge height of the roof is not going to change. It's just going to, in whole,
Wow.
be elevated.
Okay, thank you very much. So right now the proposal is assuming that when the asbestos siding is taken off, the existing siding will be in good enough shape. And I suppose procedurally, if it turns out not to be the case, will there be a return to the Landmarks Commission, or will staff be able to take care of that?
Staff should be able to take care of that. Replacing like for like is a type 1 review. So replacement in kind, such as a front door, re-siding, or re-roofing, is a type 1 review. I would
Which-
think,
which staff can do.
yes.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
And just to clarify, the additional structure is not part of the application tonight.
Say that again, please.
The additional structure is not part of the application tonight.
Right, the accessory structure, the garage, yes, not
Right.
part of this application.
And this was the one, if I remember right, it has problems, it needs the variance for the property line.
Currently, the front porch as it is now encroaches into the front yard setback.
Right.
Typically a front yard setback is 10 feet from the front property line, and it encroaches. I can probably get to this faster than I can, but it does encroach, but with the reconstructed front porch, it will encroach less.
Okay,
But because it is being completely removed and rebuilt, that's why the variance the variance requirement is triggered.
okay, and they'll still need a variance from the planning commission. Okay, thank you, Elizabeth.
You're welcome.
Applicants, let's see, are you ready?
Yes.
Fire away. Thank you.
Everybody can hear me?
Yep.
Okay, this is my first Historic Landmarks Zoom meeting, so bear with me if I make a couple mistakes. My name is Eric Koslow. I'm the applicant for my clients, Francis and Alex, and they're here with me today in the same room. We're just on our own separate computers. I'll give them a chance to introduce themselves, and then I'll kind of carry on here. So if you guys want to.
Hi, can you hear us?
Whoa.
We just had.
Bit of an echo.
Can everybody hear us?
Boy, we have,
Hang on, we're working with some audio.
That's
Let's
better.
get to work.
that's better. Yeah, Eric, turn your microphone down, I think. There you go, try it again.
Great. Well, I'm Frances Sars.
I'm Alex Mann. Yeah, we're really excited for this meeting this evening and want to say a big thank you to Elizabeth and Heidi for all of their work on this. There's a lot of emails sent outside of regular work hours, weekends, evenings, so that's not unnoticed, and we really appreciate it. And we appreciate you all taking the time out of your sunny evenings to help us with this and for all your work with the neighborhood.
So we bought the house in December, and we knew that it was in the historic district, and that was one of the reasons we liked it so much, because the character and nature of the neighborhood hopefully won't change drastically, because we really like the feel and where it's at. I work downtown for a law firm, so I'll be able to walk to work once we finish the project, which is a huge bonus.
Yeah, just a quick background. I'm born and raised in Bend. Went off for college for a while and coached rowing for a long time. But yeah, just a few connections with the historic district. After they took down the crane shed, I, as a plucky freshman in high school, helped out Jim Forbes when he was suing the contractor who tore it down. So I learned a lot about Bend's history there and all the beams they had in it. And I had a lot of friends who were in the historic district at the time. And so really looking forward to continuing my experience with the historic district and starting a family there, because, you know, my friends turned out all right. So, you know, certainly the neighborhood didn't mess them up.
Otherwise, we've done a lot of the work on the house ourselves. It's what we do in the evenings, most evenings. We like having projects together, which is good. And yeah, we're ready to get started.
Okay, thank you very much. Eric?
Unmute myself, yes. Thank you, Alex, Francis. Great intro from them. And thanks to Heidi and Beth for all their effort. Again, from myself, I've had a lot of correspondence with them as well. Ben Design Group is my business. I do a lot of work in the historic district. Heidi and Beth are aware of that. Some of you are new. Robin's been around for a while, so he's seen my face quite a bit. I'm kind of dedicated to working in the Old Bend Historic District, have numerous projects there that have been permitted and constructed to date. This was the most intensive that I've taken on as far as just the amount of detail that was required to clarify what the improvements were, to investigate alternatives in some cases, and just to find, the path forward for kind of a unique property. It's got a unique sitting on the site, so it's broken into 2 wings. That added quite a bit of complexity on the design side that we have resolved with the proposed alteration. We're really confident that what we have put together at this point is well thought through and is in line with the Historic Preservation Code, which the entire application is built on the parameters of the code. The burden of proof is about 36 pages long, a little longer than we could go through tonight, but I know Beth has read it in entirety, and I don't expect that you guys would, but there's a lot of information provided, a lot of thought put into every section of the code and of the alteration itself. To introduce Alex and Francis, the cultural narrative on this project is significant. Stanley and Louise were entrepreneurs in their day. So 1920 was the listed construction of this home. In 1923, and I believe 1925, which was listed on the burden of proof, there were, it's 1923, 1926, there were 2 other homes that are known to be built by Stanley. So Stanley was a builder. He's a builder of craftsman homes specifically. The other homes that are listed on the National Register of Historic Places for Old Town Bend, they're significant historic craftsman homes. And so this played into all of our efforts in what we're doing. Wanted to really add appropriate embellishments of the craftsman character with what we're presenting. There's a few adjustments, but we have maintained the primary facade of the home with the west-east facing gable, and the alteration to the east wing largely rectifies some incongruities of the current sitting. It appears very detached from itself. If you walk by the structure, if you look at the existing condition drawings, you'll find photographs of the home on the drawings themselves. So instead of including them in the burden of proof, you can reference the drawings for those. And the entire home was thoroughly documented dimensionally, and the alteration has taken into account what the existing massing is of the home, and trying to resolve that little bit of incongruity between the east and west structures. And so I believe we've accomplished that, and looking forward to your guys' approval ultimately if possible, but I won't jump to that conclusion yet. We strongly believe that Stanley and Lewis would welcome these alterations that we're making. There's a lot of effort put in on the development code side for just the sitting of the house. And as you're aware, there's a variance application. We're decreasing the existing nonconformity significantly from what it is now. And the variance application would allow us to make these improvements. So it's not necessarily tied to the front porch itself. It's also tied to the south west corner of the building is also sitting in nonconformance to the lot line. So it's the front entry and then that southwest corner. So the southwest corner, we can't resolve that because the house sits where it is. But we're going to make some adjustments with the front entry, which was altered at some point in time. We're referencing the Sanborn historic fire maps as a precedent for enlarging the front entry in width. We're decreasing it in depth slightly in order to decrease that nonconformity. And so this really improves this home with a appropriate front entry that matches a lot of other homes in the immediate area on Georgia Avenue. So that's a little background on everything. I'm just kind of referencing a little outline that I wrote for myself. So a lot of this work started with site visits, talking with Francis, Alex, walking through the building multiple times, meeting with them basically on a weekly basis, which is sometimes unique in the design world because you are hunkered down working on your computer. You don't want to distract yourself too much from what you're doing with multiple meetings throughout the week. But this one kind of necessitated these weekly meetings, and I really found this project kind of endearing to myself and the work that I do, that this is a pretty cool improvement that we're presenting here, and we really investigated all avenues of what we could do with the home, and having multiple contractors come and talk with us on site through some of the technical aspects of what it would take just to shift some windows around, looking at just improving the home as it sat without any additions, any major alterations. And we just kept on hitting a roadblock, and the structural engineer confirmed, we're going to need to replace this foundation. We have a structural observation report included with our submittal, kind of outlining the nuts and bolts of that essentially we're restricted to less than a 10% adjustment in any of the wall shear, existing shear, which the walls aren't necessarily sheathed, but the old way of keeping these structures together was largely with the siding, with some interior finishes. And so that 10% limitation is very, very limiting for installing any new windows or just moving existing windows into places where they would work with the interior layout. So that was one of the driving factors in looking towards the improvements that we're now presenting. The foundation was a large component of this. So we made a lot of effort and kind of committed to not improving the foundation as much as possible, just retaining what we had. And we had some confirmation from two or more witnesses, if you will, the structural engineer, and then a very knowledgeable concrete contractor, Joseph Friedrich, Hammerhead Construction, who visited the site, and they both, pointed out that we're going to go in the wrong direction if we don't improve this foundation, and we won't be able to achieve the shear values that we need upstairs. There's no reinforcement in these walls necessarily, or highly unlikely that there is. The walls are cracked, they're pitted, they're comprised of some larger river rock aggregate, which is not a good bonding aggregate. So today's type of aggregate provides much more strength. That is important only because we would have to embed anchors into these walls that are kind of unknown as far as, you know, what they can achieve for us. So we're replacing the whole foundation. The head height in that basement is also limiting, so it's below code minimum right now. We need to remove the slab on grade in the basement, which is very variable in elevation by a few inches and slopes up into some rock outcroppings under the basement. The whole entirety of the earth under this building is largely rock. It's solid rock. And so excavating down is prohibitive. So really we came up with, okay, if we're gonna do this, we have to lift this house. So then we contacted a house lifter and have been going down that road. We have a 3D perspective of the shoring that would be done to lift the home. That's on the last page, I believe, of the drawing submitted. And the use of the basement, going back to the cultural narrative, is also significant. So this home was used, the basement was used by the original owners, and you can tell that from the existing plumbing that's in the basement. There's a shop space, what we believe to be a shop space, in that east wing in the basement. There's a big door to that space, which implies, you know, it was used as kind of a shop space. Stanley was a builder, so we kind of envision them, you know, doing woodworking in the basement, and yet that part of the basement is separated from the part that has the plumbing. And so that indicates that, you know, the other part of the basement was really used for living space. And so for a alteration that brings us up to a contemporary compliance with codes, you know, it necessitates that we lift this structure. We did not want to lift the first floor or the ridge height relative to the first floor. So as Beth and Heidi have pointed out, we've maintained that. And that is a big component of what we believe should allow this application to pass. And in essence, we're kind of returning the home back to how it was used when Stanley and Lewis and Wilbur, Emmett, and Elise, their children, all lived there. So that's kind of a lot of detail there, but this is a very detailed project, and we kind of took pride in that cultural narrative, some parallels that we draw with that narrative. The precedents that our application are established on are the home itself, or is the home itself. So that was the primary precedent that we were drawing all our comparisons from. That's true with the windows, the siding. It's true with, you know, the front entry itself is a front-facing gable. So we're enlarging that concept. That element of the home was altered over time significantly. We don't know what it was. In its original state, there were no photographs we could find of that. I did some extensive research looking at documents from other surrounding homes all throughout the area, probably 15 of them, even over on Lava, which is below the elevation of Georgia. So it's over near McMinimans, and we just couldn't find a photograph from any of those that might have kind of a sneak view of this home. But our improvement is, you know, maintaining what we do have in place, and so we're maintaining that front-facing gable entry, but just making it a little more palatable for the craftsman character of the neighborhood. Right now, it's not exactly a great example of the craftsman character of the neighborhood. There's some big plywood box brackets that have been constructed on the sides of it. You can see that in the original photos included on the existing condition drawings. There's quite a bit of alteration that's been made to the home with the asbestos siding. The narrative in the listing of the National Historic Places is a little incorrect, as I'm kind of finding out on a lot of these projects that, you know, the original conditions vary quite often from what's listed. So the asbestos siding was applied over the original siding. There's photographs included that show the original lap siding, if you will. It's not a ship lap. It's a clapboard siding application. And we found a profile. There's some profiles that are readily available through Miller Lumber, Par Lumber, that fit our exact application. So the reveal will be matched to a T, which is 4.5 inches. The material right now is 1/2 inch to 7/16, a little bit, you know, 1/16 variability there on it, on the thickness of it at the furthest extent of its reveal. And the material that we would be using is the exact same thickness. So that kind of outlines, if we do need to replace some of the siding, we found a replacement that should fit well with that. The window inventory narrative that we've provided details the efforts that we have put in on that end with keeping whatever windows we could. And the home has been altered very observably in the east wing. There's a variation in the actual framing, so that it's a very noticeable thing that wasn't constructed at the same time. But there's plywood holding some of the foundation together under that east wing. There's a lot of windows that you know, there's double paned windows. There's a whole mix of windows and styles on this. But when you kind of peel back the asbestos siding, you can see there were quite a few alterations with the window trim. So most of the window trim was all replaced. There's 3 windows that we're considering as original windows. They are double hung windows. The weights are still in place, so those are noticeably original. One of those windows is broken, and the window operation of all 3 of those doesn't significantly work. So there's a lot of deterioration to those 3 windows, and after having some third parties look at those windows and just reviewing everything ourselves and how are we going to put this whole thing together and make it cohesive, the decision was made to replace all these windows. And so we found a window type that is specifically historic, the Westchester series with Sierra Pacific. And that is the window type that we're using for all these windows. That kind of marries with their Aspen line, but that is the primary line. And then the eave brackets that are currently in place, those are noticeably not original. You can tell that. I have a picture provided in the burden of proof that kind of shows those were scabbed on. They're not structural components. As a non-structural component without any outlookers, which is a contemporary application. So outlookers would be your rafters projecting perpendicular from your barge rafter at a gable end, and they would be supported by back spanning back to a rafter, a bay back. And so that's a contemporary application using these outlookers. And so without outlookers and maintaining more of a historic eave appearance, you really need some knee braces to support that eave. And so we've implemented knee braces in lieu of these brackets. I think that some of these embellishments are likely would be welcomed by Stanley himself. You find knee brackets on many of the homes in the immediate surrounding area. We have precedents listed in the burden of proof. Those precedents start on page 22 if you need to jump there. That kind of goes over all the materials. The roofing will be replaced. The fascia will be replaced with like material and size. That's about it for that. You may have some more questions, and this one's kind of extensive. So that's my intro. I believe, we have all the information there. If you have any questions, we can point you in the right direction.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioners, are there any quick questions? No questions.
All right, Mr. Chair,
David, go ahead.
it's not quick though. So
Is it relevant?
it's relevant,
All right, go ahead.
just not quick. So for Eric, you said underneath the east wing that this thing is mostly rock.
Underneath the east wing, the entirety of the site is rock. It's essentially it's an existing sloped condition. I don't believe there is a lot of excavation there. The foundation is kind of built around a lot of this rock and missing in some parts. They just left out foundation. It's just bare rock.
Right. So are you going to need to chip out that rock in order to get your foundations in?
No, that's something that we looked at, and we don't believe that's a practical improvement. And so, excuse me, little something caught in my throat there. So we are lifting the house to.
How far are you lifting it up?
2 foot, 5.5 inches.
Not the final, during construction. How far are you lifting that house?
That would be determined by the house lifter, and that may vary. I'm not going to comment on the specific height, but it would have to be above, a decent distance above our top of concrete, because we want to be able to build the foundation and then install the beams and then set the whole structure back.
Right. So have you done any investigation in that east wing in terms of, are the studs in the walls actually pre-cuts, or is this some sort of scab together bits and pieces from?
Yeah, so this has a little bit of scab together bits and pieces for sure. There's actually no studs in the east foundation. It's a post and beam type of structure there, and we have plywood on the south side of it. It's held together by sheets of plywood spanning almost the full 8 feet. And then
Okay, so
on the sides, you have.
so you've got post and beam. Is that going to be replaced by post and beam, or is this?
This will be a conventional frame structure.
Okay, so there's almost nothing in that east wing that is going to be salvageable overall, but yet why are you lifting it when you could just take it down and replace it exactly how it is?
It's because of some of my experience with the historic district. It's if we can save something, then we are going to try to put the effort into to save it.
Sure, but that's right. But I went and looked. So I went and looked, and I just drove past it today, right? And I'm looking at that, especially that east wing. The exposed rafter tails on that east wing are all rotted, right? You've got asbestos siding over that was last manufactured in 1978, right? So sometime between, that's like 58 years, that asbestos siding went over the original siding. And I can guarantee you there is a reason why somebody chose to put asbestos siding over that original siding, right? It was to not deal with the original siding.
Yeah, maybe.
So,
yeah, but I'm listening. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but
I
regardless,
just
now
didn't
you're gonna have,
interject a little bit.
you're gonna have a bazillion nail holes in that siding, right? In the siding that's on that east wing. You're not saving the windows, you're not saving the shingles, you're not saving the asbestos siding.
Which,
There's not even any 2x4s to save, right? There's only a couple posts. The rafters aren't salvageable. So my question is, because of past history here, we're going through the expense. Your clients are going through the expense of lifting this instead of just taking it apart and rebuilding it correctly.
Yeah, so just to touch on that more specifically, the aspects of demolition of these historic projects, this one, has kind of extensive demolition in that east wing. And I just try to steer away from as much demolition as we can get into, if possible. And so that has, a strong bearing on, and I know that there's a cost associated with it, but the structure itself outlines the footprint of that area on the east lot line, along the east lot line. And so that has some significance in my mind, that we're maintaining the exact footprint along that east lot line and on the northern side. So maintaining it will allow the new structure to be placed exactly where it is now, which.
Yeah, but we could do that. I mean, that's
we,
for those
we,
people that are in construction trade.
we have an application in front of us that we need to decide on. The application is presented by the applicants.
Yeah.
I don't believe our job here is to redesign their
I didn't
structure.
redesign. I'm just worried that this commission, right, is worrying about the wrong things and inflicting costs ultimately upon the homeowner.
Commissioner Funchin, our job here is to apply the historic code to the application.
Absolutely, but
And we can
as we go along.
philosophize about the role of the commission at a work session if you would like to.
No, we won't have Mr. Kozlov at that work session though. So the only other question I had for the applicant was, I guess summarized in her affidavit. And I just wanted to make sure that it's 19 contractors that she went to in order to find 2 recommendations to remove that window, or those 3 windows.
Yes, Commissioner. So I have participated in the last 3 landmarks meetings. And at one of them, it came to my attention that we were going to need, or you liked to see 2 opinions about the windows. And the next morning I contacted Heidi Kennedy and Beth, and I received the list. I think, yeah, so subsequently it resulted in my declaration, which I called all of those companies that are listed. I've also provided you which ones called me back, and then provided the 2 opinions of the people that actually were able to give us something.
Well, and I just want to say I appreciate that, because if you've been watching those meetings, you know that this is a sore sticking point for myself, right?
Yes.
And I guarantee you that that will be part of our next working group meeting. And I just want to thank you for detailing that so well. It was perfect. Thank you. I have no more questions.
Okay, are there any other questions from the commissioners for the applicants?
Yeah, this is Robin again. Hi, I'd just like to follow up on those windows. And thank you again for checking with all those contractors. We appreciate you doing that. So on the windows, Elizabeth or Eric, I don't know if it just as, do you have a summary drawing you can pull up quickly? I can't do it quickly. That shows how the new windows would compare to the historical ones.
Yes. So let's go to, let's see, I need to share my screen, I guess.
And how many total windows were there again?
3.
I mean, 3 historical, but how many total are you replacing?
There are See, let me just find the right spot here. I believe we have 17 in total.
So
Let me pull
17
up-
and you're gonna,
Let me pull up a drawing here and then I can,
okay. And all of them will be in this, the same style?
no, there's a little variation of style. So there's some picture frame windows and then there's a double hung. And we're
Okay.
using a combination of picture frame and double hung.
Okay,
Okay, let me pull this from one screen to another here. I believe this is the screen you guys are looking at. Do you see my screen?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. And do you have a picture of those three, one of the three historical windows, how they compare?
Yes, let me pull that up as well. So just give me 1 second.
And Eric, you had discovered in the process of removing some of the material from the interior, some openings, correct, that had been covered up?
Yeah, so in that western portion of the east wing, there's a little build out in the existing house and that had some corner windows. So that had a set of 4 corner windows and then
Okay,
one on that, those are facing to the north. And then there's one window on the western facade of that little bump out. So the window inventory narrative, this outlines all the windows. So there's 17 windows in total answering some of these questions. The windows are B1, B2, and C1 on the drawings. I have photos of those. Let me jump over to the existing conditions. Okay, so on the existing conditions, these windows are labeled. So B1 is on the western facade, and that window is broken. I'll jump back to the picture of that broken window in a second. Let me kind of go over these on the drawings first, and then I'll show you the pictures. The other existing window, let's see, it's on a. Oh, can you guys not see my screen?
we can see
We
the
can see the-
perspectives.
Actually, we can see it. And Robin, all of this was covered in Willamette Windows application. And you can just click on that and download it. It's got all 3 windows. And
Yeah, I was
the
just-
condition of it.
Okay. I was having trouble getting there for some reason. I was just wondering, I thought maybe it'd be quick for him to pull it up, but it sounds
Yeah.
like it's.
Well, I have it in front of us. It just takes a little bit of time, I guess, refreshing the screen or something. So here's that west facade. Here's the one window located in that west facade. This is a broken window. If you look at a closer image that's included in the window.
Eric, we're only seeing the A 0.0 sheet.
I think you might be sharing just the window and not the full screen.
Oh, okay, then I may be on the, yeah, let
I mean,
me,
like the window of your computer screen, not the other window.
okay, let me jump back into.
So
Yeah.
the best thing to do in this case, Mr. Kozlow, is to stop sharing and then start sharing again. But instead of just sharing the application, go ahead and share your whole screen. So it should be the first option in the share window up
Okay.
on the top corner.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the stop sharing button.
Oh, it should be at the top of your screen. Yeah, it hides everything up there. You should see a small tab that you can pull down and stop sharing. I can also, let me see if I can stop it from my end.
Okay, I think maybe it's on my other screen and that's why I'm not seeing it. Okay, am I still sharing my screen?
No.
No,
Sorry.
We can also hold up the pictures and
Yeah. Let me just do that. Well, you guys have, that's the only one that I have printed out.
Mr. Chair, could I share the window? Oh yeah, there we go.
You have it?
So this is the Willamette restoration window. This one you can see. Let's see, let me go back to.
Andy, can you quickly share that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andy.
Andy, go ahead and share that.
Okay.
All right.
There you go.
Okay, thank you.
So
Done.
this is 3
Okay.
pages.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the Willamette restoration report, but the window inventory schedule also shows the same images and details out everything in more
Okay.
specificity. Sorry.
Okay.
Just a
Thank you. Thank
quick
you, Andy.
question. Did Willamette charge to come out and give that report?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
It is.
All right. Thank you. Are there any other quick questions?
Yeah. Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead,
Mr.
Andy.
Chair. Yeah. So Eric, looking at the front facade, I have the elevations downloaded from planning website. It shows no knee brace or eave bracket, as you called it, at the center peak of the new gable. And then the picture that you brought up earlier does show one. I think that there may be a discrepancy on whether there's a light there. Can you tell us which it is?
Yeah. So there is no knee bracket there, and I apologize for that little discrepancy. Some of these 3D models, because of the existing needing to map out the existing structure, maintain a relative height to the ridge to the existing floor. I couldn't model the existing in with the new model, and so I'm using 2 models. Anyways, the view through a 0.1 perspective shows a light, and that's why we removed that knee brace, is to be able to install a light fixture there. There's limited room, even with widening the front entry. We just didn't have enough room to provide a light at a sufficient height above the door, so we removed that knee brace for that purpose.
I think even though the knee braces were not included in any sort of historic sense, they do have precedent. Do you, in this case, they're structural, right? You're depending on them in lieu of, what do you call the out hanger or the flat 2x4 outlooker? Yeah. So it would be either a knee brace or an outlooker in order to support the eave and not have a sagging eave the way we see around the neighborhood.
Correct. And with that small span on the front entry,
okay,
small span of the rafters, we believe the 2 at the base should be sufficient for keeping that.
Understood. The window massing, looking at the southeast perspective, there's an interior corner where there's windows that turn a corner. Did you have any, where there's an interior corner of the house? Did you have any precedent to see that sort of ribbon window turn a corner in the district?
Yes. So this is something very common with the homes in the immediate surrounding area on the same block on the opposite side of the street, which are detailed out in the burden of proof. Page 22 starts sharing those precedents. But the home itself was really the precedent that we used for this window configuration on the north side of the home. So what you can't see from the street, there are pairs of windows. So there's a pair of 4 windows there, and then they turn the corner, with a corner window type of configuration. So we're utilizing that same configuration. The existing windows, there's an existing window very close to this corner in the existing house. And so that was another thing, not wanting to alter the location of that window. And then there's a door opening installed on the east wing portion of these windows that we're proposing. So right there in the inside corner, there were two openings. So we're using those two openings to relocate windows. The door that's in that location was installed at a later date. There's a lot of evidence that it wasn't an original feature necessarily. It could have been, but we don't have the photos to support that. What we did want to do is not alter the fact that maybe there's an opening there. And so we're using the pairs of windows as a precedent from the home and then from the other.
Okay, thanks. And then my last question was on the rear facade, the lower level, I think it's a sliding door with a faux door on the lower level. Can you just explain the rationale from a historic perspective on that design, that entrance?
Yeah, so this is, again, a precedent taken from the property itself. The existing conditions sheet AE 2.3 provides the elevation of that area of the home. It's hard to snap a straight on picture, so it's a little bit of a perspective view, but you can see the original or the existing door there, which we are considering, a more original element. We're using it as a precedent for what the improvements are. The door itself, besides what you see in the perspective modeled views, is detailed out with a elevation, and that is provided on, it's provided on sheet A8.2. I believe that's right, or A8.1. Those are the two door and window elevation sheets. So A8.1. So that kind of shows you what the construction will be. There's just some slight variation for the materials to achieve just a strength. The door currently in place is kind of flimsy, so we'll need to strengthen the frame of the door a little bit, or the jamb, or basically the frame of the door. Sorry.
Is it flush with the sliding? Is it flush with the faux door? Is the sliding door flush with the faux door?
Yeah, that's the intent. The track itself is a bidder design item, so that's specified on the drawings. That will have to be a bidder design, and also we would submit this back to Landmark staff to review prior to the construction or implementation of it.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, this is just a man door. I mean, there's no vehicle access back.
No, but there's one panel that will be operable, and then the other panel will be fixed. Yes.
Okay. All right. Unless there are any other questions, is there anyone out there who would like to speak in favor of this application? Hearing no one who would like to testify in favor, is there anyone out there who would like to speak against this application? There's no one out there speaking against this application?
Not seeing anybody right now, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Staff, do you have any final any final questions for staff? Where are you at, Beth? Anything else?
I would just like to just remind you that the methodology by which an applicant accomplishes an approved alteration is not part of the review criteria.
Okay, thank you. Then the public hearing for this application is now closed. All right, commissioners, if you have comments that you would like to share with the rest of the commission, I would ask you to go ahead and limit your comments to 3 minutes, since we are really going over our time here. Any comments that you would like to make to the rest of the commission? Jim?
Sure. I'd like to commend the applicants for the due diligence that they presented in their application. It sounds from the testimony of Mr. Kozlow and the czars that there were a lot of conversations both between the client and their builder and a lot of other contractors to which this commission is not privileged, that led to some good sound decisions. And I just applaud their application and their process.
Okay, thank you. David, quick comments.
Generally, when it's going in favor of the applicants, I try not to ask any questions. I applaud them. Looks great.
Okay, Robin, you're next up. Any quick comments?
No, nothing jumps out at me.
All right, and Derek, any quick comments?
Mr. Chair, having lived in that neighborhood a block away or less, and watching that house for 25 years, I applaud the designer. I applaud the intent. And as a former builder, I say it's a nice looking set of plans, actually.
Thank you, sir. And now I will entertain a motion.
Can I make a comment?
Oh, I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Chair? Yeah.
And I forgot.
Thank you.
I skipped right by you.
Okay. First, I'm going to be sad to see the bus go. I don't know if it's actually left already, but there was a bus parked in the front yard for a long time. I do feel like the eave brackets seem a little off to be on the edges of the front facade and not the middle. And I would be interested in any commission discussion on whether kind of like fairly invisible out hangers or flat 2x4s hidden in the eave in lieu of eave brackets would be preferable to have the structural support. I will note that the back kind of looks like a double garage, but it isn't, and it's a faux. Our code specifically doesn't like double garages. I will basically say that I noticed it and I don't think anyone will care. It's in the back and it's not a garage and it doesn't look like a single garage door the way that the code is trying to prevent. So I have no problem with it. And noting the precedent of the interior windows that turn an interior corner, I think that element stood out to me when I looked at the elevations, but given the precedents that the applicant presented, I think it's recommended that it be accepted. That's all.
All right, thank you kindly. Then I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Derek?
I move we accept as presented with staff recommendations.
Presented with staff rec.
I would second that.
And we have a second. It has been moved and seconded that we accept this the application as presented to us tonight with the 3 staff recommendations as part of the motion. Did I get that?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Then all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand or something like that. Thumbs up, whatever it be.
Chair,
Okay.
just should we have just a brief discussion point before we take a vote?
No, I skipped the part. Go ahead.
Okay.
Discussion.
Well, Commissioner Andy, he's not voting, but he requested that we, consider one of his points. And I guess I didn't pay close enough attention to all that, and I don't know if one of the other commissioners did. I'm just trying to honor his request.
Sure. Thank you.
I pass again.
Yeah, if you looked at the rear, I think initial look, it sort of looks like a double garage, which is not allowed by our historic code. It is not a double garage, and it is a sliding door with a faux door next to it in order to be centered. In this case, I believe this is consistent with Bend
Okay.
Historic Code.
But wasn't there something else you mentioned when you started your comments, Andy?
Oh, and yeah, and sorry, the angled eave brackets that hold up the overhang on the eaves. I do think it looks a bit odd to not have a center one, and I understand the need for a porch light. The applicant expressed that this was intended in lieu of a more modern type of framing, which would be sort of a flat 2x4 overhanging the eave. That exists on my house. It was approved by the commission on my house when I presented it 3 years ago. I would say that either would be a suitable. I would actually say we accept it as is, and as presented. But I will note that there is no center eave in the front, sort of extension of the front facade or center eave bracket.
Okay, discussion of the motion. Any further discussion of the motion? Now I will take a legal vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All right, motion carries. Thank you very much. Again, I'd like to echo from my perspective. It looks like it's going to be a great project. Vaya con Dios. Thank you for doing it.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone. I'll try to get better at the presentation on these Zoom meetings, but yeah, we appreciate all your time and looking at these drawings. It brings a little bit of pride just to have other people get their eyes on it, what we're proposing. And so that's a satisfying thing tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Eric.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
We can move on. Commissioners, do you need a 5-minute break?
I wouldn't say.
Yes, no, yes?
That'd be great.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and take 5, people. we got everybody back. Okay, are we all back? Looks like it. Ready to go? Okay, all righty. Do we have the applicant on?
We have the applicant's representative here this evening.
Okay, thank you very much. All right.
Thank you, Juan, for uploading to a panelist.
No problem.
Let's see if I've got the right one. This is 337 Northwest Delaware. Okay.
Correct.
All right. Thank you. We will resume. This is a de novo hearing and is an initial evidentiary hearing of PLHIS 202-10242. This application is a request for seeking approval to demolish an existing laundry room that is located on the rear of the dwelling and add a new rear addition to the existing dwelling. The addition is proposed to extend the ridgeline of the existing home further south and add an additional bedroom on the first floor, along with an additional bedroom and bathroom upstairs. To accommodate the upstairs addition, shed dormers are proposed to be added to the rear portions of the roof. All right. Burden of proof. The applicant has the burden of proving that he or she is entitled to the approval sought. The applicable criteria for this application include the Bend Urban Area Comprehensive Plan, Chapter 3 and Chapter 10.2 of the Historic Preservation Code and the Secretary of the Interior standards for the treatment of historic properties. Testimony and evidence at this hearing must be directed toward the criteria set forth in the staff report or other criteria in the Bend General Plan or Bend Development Code that you believe is applicable for any other criteria in the National Register of Historic Places program that any person believes apply to this decision. Failure on the part of any person to raise an issue with sufficient specificity to afford the Landmarks Commissioners and parties to this proceeding an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the City Council or Land Use Board of Appeals on that issue. Additionally, failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to the proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the Landmarks Commission to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. The hearing will be conducted in the following order. Staff will give a report. Applicant will then have an opportunity to offer testimony evidence. Proponents of the application will then be given a chance to testify and present evidence. When all proponents have testified, opponents of the appeal will then be given a chance to testify and present evidence. After both proponents and opponents have testified, the applicants will be allowed to present rebuttal testimony, but may not present new evidence. At the Landmarks Commission's discretion, the proponents presented new evidence on rebuttal. Opponents may be recognized for a rebuttal presentation. At the conclusion of this hearing, the staff will be afforded an opportunity to make any closing comments. The commission may limit the time period for presentation. Continuances before the close of the hearing, any person has the right to request an opportunity to present additional evidence, argument, or testimony regarding the application. If the hearing is continued or the record left open, the applicant shall also be allowed at least 7 days after the record is closed to all other parties to submit final written arguments, but no new evidence in support of the application. Do any of the commissioners have any ex parte contacts, prior hearing observations, biases, or conflicts of interest to declare? If so, please state the nature and extent of those. Commissioners? No? Does any party wish to challenge any commissioner based on ex parte contacts, biases, or conflicts of interest? No? All right. Heidi, your staff on this one?
Yep.
You may fire away.
Good evening. For the record, Heidi Kennedy, staff planner for this project. This is a request for alterations to the home address as 337 Northwest Delaware. As mentioned earlier, this is a request to demolish an existing laundry room off the back rear side of the building and do an expansion, an addition. And the addition includes some shed dormers And the applicable criteria that were used for doing the review included the Bend Code, Chapter 10.20, Historic Preservation Code, and Chapter 4.1, Development Review and Procedures. After review of all the Preservation Code standards and criteria for additions, staff's recommendation is listed on the last page, the second to last page, and staff's recommendation is for approval, and with two conditions. One is that the applicant submitted standards details checklist, which is typical, just so we can double check and make sure that the plans meet the landmarks approval that go through the building division. And number two, there weren't any details about light fixtures. And so the second condition talks about them being compatible with the related, any new fixtures be compatible with the historic building, but also meet the lighting code standards, which is full cutoff design for light pollution. And the applicant's representative is here this evening. If you have any questions, that's all I have at this point.
Okay, thank you. Any quick questions for Heidi at this point? Okay, then our applicant. Let's see, you are with us. I generally like to give applicants, since the burden of proof is on the applicant, we generally give you as much time as you need to present your case. You may begin when you're ready.
Morgan, if you're trying to talk, you're muted at this point.
There you go. Now you're unmuted. Now you're muted again.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yep, can hear you now.
Okay. First off, I want to thank you guys for your time and consideration for this project, especially Heidi and Elizabeth for helping us and the client navigate the process, and also balance the client's desires with the historical district's standards. The client was unable to attend due to an untimely death and the need to attend the funeral, I'm afraid. So otherwise they would have been here. This project is quite a bit more cut and dry than the previous. We're looking at basically an addition on the rear of an existing structure that conforms to the architecture of the neighborhood. And you know, all the specific information is included in the narrative, and I'm present to basically field any questions. It's like I said, it's basically pretty cut and dry. We're just adding a bedroom on the back of the building, and then adding an upstairs bedroom and bathroom, shed dormers, just continuing the ridge line. Nothing fancy.
Mm-hmm.
We're not proposing any alterations to the street side of the existing building whatsoever. Existing landscaping is to remain. The existing detached garage is to remain, existing fencing, parking off alley, etc. No changes there.
Okay. Quick questions for the applicant, for the representative.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. You have it down with 2 vinyl slider doors and vinyl windows on the addition. Is that, am I reading that right?
We're using the historical series, sliding doors, windows, and man doors. I believe there were the Sierra Pacific Westchester series.
Okay.
So they're all clad historical style. There's only 2 windows on the existing building that are single pane wood frame. The rest have been replaced with vinyl over the years.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was looking at A202. It stated new vinyl window, new vinyl sliding glass door. I was just curious about that.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, the intention is for the Sierra Pacific historical clad Westchester series for the windows and doors.
Mm-hmm.
And that's included in the narrative.
So we can clarify that with the the checklist. I know that we talked, I think originally that they were originally proposing vinyl windows, and we had talked about that, and I did not recommend that. And so I think that was changed as part of the application. So that must have been a note that was left over from just the original drafts.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I think that was an artifact from the construction plans versus the narrative. I apologize.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? None? Okay. Is there anyone out there who would like to speak in favor of this application?
No hands, Mr. Chair.
No hands? Okay, thank you, Juan. Is there anyone out there who would like to speak against this application? Did any letters come in or either in favor or against, Heidi?
No.
Okay. All right. Since there are no further questions for our applicant, there is no one who wishes to speak in favor or anyone who wishes to oppose. Any further questions? Or Heidi, do you have a concluding statement that you'd like to make?
Not
May I
at this
ask,
time.
may I ask Heidi a question, Mr. Chair?
Sure, certainly.
Heidi, your staff report says that the shed dormers are similar. Staff finds that there are other shed dormers in the neighborhood. I don't know if you have any off the top of your head that you can reference, or I'm guessing no.
420.
I'm sorry.
420.
What was that, Derek?
429 Georgia.
Okay.
Just off the top of my head.
Okay, that's all.
I believe that
Thank you.
there were some in the narrative as well. I'm trying to remember. Let me see if I can find.
I have, okay.
Or Morgan, do you?
There was a similar configuration in the approved renovation for the property next door, which the construction wasn't completed. I think we used that as part of the precedent. And then there were several others in the neighborhood with similar dormers, but I don't have the addresses off the top of my head.
I thought you had included pictures in the narrative.
I thought I did too, but I'm looking through it right now and I don't see specific reference.
I know we had talked about it so much when you were preparing the
Yeah, and I know
application.
we used the approved application for the next door property, which is very similar but not completed as a precedent. And I believe you actually sent me several photos of neighborhood dormers, and it looks like I just didn't throw put them into the narrative.
Okay, maybe that's what I was thinking. Let me see.
So there are no other photos or addresses?
Let me see if I can find some way, if you want to ask me or Morgan another question, I'll see if I can find those.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't have an address, but it's the Hans Slagsvold house from 1919 that had a very similar pop dormer.
And do you have a picture of that one?
I do. Let's see if I can pull it up.
look that, I think that's 419 Northwest Delaware.
Yeah, that appears to have a real similar configuration. It's street facing and ours are side lot facing, but.
Right. Yeah, I see it on street view now. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at as well.
Yeah, 419 Northwest Delaware seems to be a decent precedent. Okay, thank you.
Can you share that screen, Commissioner? Do you want to see it? Other commissioners?
Yeah,
No?
I can. This is just street view. This is the
dorm.
Yeah, this is the house. I think this is the dormer. I think the same exists on the back, although you can't see it from. And,
Okay.
and as he noted, it's a different angle, the dormer elevation.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Also have 429 Georgia shows one as well.
Okay.
That Mr. Stevens talked about.
I know it well.
You know it well?
It was my house for 20 years.
It was your house for 20 years? Oh, okay. Bet you do know it well. All right. Any other questions for Heidi? Okay, no other comments from Heidi then? Then this public hearing is closed. Quick comments from commissioners. Keep your comments brief. Then I will entertain an motion.
Mr. Chair, happy to take a step at that.
Okay.
I move we approve as presented with the staff recommendations, and the third being that the plans reflect the Sierra Pacific windows noted in the narrative, not the vinyl windows or slider.
Your third recommendation would be that run it by me.
The plans reflect the narrative in the application of Sierra Pacific windows and sliders, not vinyl, as noted on the plans.
Okay.
I got that. Thank you. Good catch.
Okay, you got that, Heidi?
Yeah.
Not vinyls. Okay. All right, it has been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It has been moved and seconded. Thank you. That this commission approved the application as presented with the two staff recommendations, and a third one being that the plans reflect the narratives of Sierra something Pacific windows and not vinyl windows. Did I get that right? Okay. All right. All those in favor, please signify by waving thumbs up. Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. This application has been approved. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Let's see. We've got that. And we are going to forego item number 6. We're going to move the work session to another date. Let's see. That
And
makes
just to clarify, if we get one public hearing next month, we'll try to do the work session on the same time.
okay. You betcha. We'll try to do this work at that time. Questions?
Mr. Chair, yeah, could I say something just to inform the commission? So as I stated last month, I did go before the Old Bend Neighborhood Association, and I asked them to submit their comments to the commission for changes they would like to see in the Bend Historic Code, either as individuals representing themselves or as a neighborhood association representing a consensus.
Thank
So
you.
I did make that request. I'm not sure if we've gotten anything, but I will let them know that we have another month to hear some of their input.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. And Heidi, if you get anything, or maybe we can bundle up together.
I will include anything as part of the links on the agenda like I have been doing.
Okay, super duper. Great. Let's see, communications report, staff.
I just got word that we got a new grant from the state. And so predominantly the funds are going towards the restoration grant that the city offers to property owners for doing, small projects. So I'm working on getting that application up on the website, and I'll forward it on to everybody when I do get that all set up and ready. And if you can pass along the word, and hopefully we'll be able to support people with their work financially.
Okay.
And some of the other funds will go towards any kind of education we want to do. There's, as things are slowly opening up, or maybe it'll continue to be online, there'll be opportunities to put some funds towards, paying for ongoing education for staff or commissioners.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Any other good of the order?
Yeah, a few months ago, we talked about potential historic district on the west side. And Terry was going to speak with the neighborhood association, if I remember correctly. And I think Heidi maybe too. And I was wondering if anything ever came of that.
So our timing was kind of bad on that, as far as, a lot of those neighborhood associations don't meet very often.
Right.
So I think that was one of the items on the work session agenda, is the goal setting for trying to do to address education, ongoing education and promotion of historic preservation in general. And so hopefully we'll be able to talk about a plan of action, at the next work session, and really kind of work on that.
Okay.
When is their next neighborhood meeting? Did anybody check on that?
It was like within a week of when we had met and talked about that, you gave me direction. So it was like they had already met, and they haven't met since. I can, I'll email you directly what it was.
Yeah.
I was looking at the Old Town, and, it sounds like Andy has some connections there. And so I think it was the West Side's annual meeting or something. It was like a week within when we had met.
Yeah,
So it was,
but they probably have monthly board meetings where you can go and present and kind of get some feedback.
Okay.
And then, there's at least a District Diamond has monthly newsletters that the board can send out, saying, what do you think about this? You don't necessarily have to wait a year.
Okay, right. Okay.
Anything else? Good of the order. I have one thing that I'd like to bring up. Sometimes I think when we're doing and having discussions and we're going through this, that maybe we're isolated. Well, I'm a daily reader of the Bend Bulletin, and I don't know if anybody else saw it, but in the editorial page of the Bulletin, what was that, about Wednesday of last week, I think, Thursday of last week, there was an editorial that said something like, asked the questions about the Landmarks Commission, talking about transparency, what are we doing, some of the same questions we've had of ourselves. And so it was like, well, maybe we're not isolated, and we're not in isolation, that somebody actually is watching. So I thought that woke me up that morning. If there's nothing else, then this meeting is closed. Oh, David? You're muted, David.
Sorry. So you were saying something about Robin's written changes, and I was just trying to figure out how that's, maybe he can speak to it better than I can, but like, what is it about, and when do we, like, how are we going to work that into a work group, or are we like going to review that and vote on it?
I was thinking as part of the work session, we, as we were started kind of getting into it a little bit last month after the hearing, which is just to, have a discussion about the language, in the design standards. And those are some of the points he put in there just to start the discussion, the details of the one. So.
And
we won't get into
David,
the
you have
nuts and
the
bolts.
changes to the code there in front of you. You've looked at those?
No, I didn't get them. So
They're a link. I linked the preservation code and the comments that I got from Robin to the agenda.
okay, I'll go back and I'll circle around on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess to tell you, it was just to help further us along in the discussion we started at the previous meeting. In the previous two discussions prior to today, we violated the city code as written in at least 3 areas, windows, additions, and garages, and probably more. I didn't know what to say about garages, but I did, try to capture what seemed to be our, how we made the decisions into some draft language that would allow that. Because as Ian pointed out, our role is to enforce the city code, and we can't go off from it. So we either need to propose a change, or we need to, we can't keep voting as we did.
Sounds good. I just was trying to figure out like what exactly that meant, because I didn't see it. I'll circle it. I'll get to it, and we'll be good to go next month.
Okay. And we'll see if we can work that into the work session then. All right. Anything else? Well, then, thank you, commissioners, for your time and for your efforts in preparation and that. And